Minute taker, please call the roll.
Alderman Lazara. Here. Alderman Jacob.
Here.
Alderman Winger. Alderman Catalano.
Here.
Alderman Sismarski.
Here.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Here.
Alderman Woods.
Here.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Here.
Okay, next, make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of May 23rd, 2013.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Right now, I'll turn over the floor to the mayor for a minute. He has an announcement to make.
Thank you. Received a letter here from the Village of Bensenville. June 20th through June 23rd, they have the Vietnam Veterans Memorial called Wall That Heals. They have an opening ceremony on Thursday, June 20th at 10 a.m. For those residents who would like to attend, it's June 20th through the 23rd, and I believe it's open 24 hours, or somebody's on guard there 24 hours. And it will be at Redmond Park in Bensenville. Thank you.
Now I have a report and recommendation, the adoption of the DuPage County Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan. Mr. Forrest, if you want to run us through that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some of you may recall in February of 2011, we adopted what was then the current DuPage County Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan. It's something that they were required to do by FEMA. We also are required to adopt this. And what the plan is, it's more of an outline or a guideline, and it identifies the natural hazards that this area of the country is subjected to. It puts forward an action plan, mitigation strategies, how to deal with certain types of events when they happen. And these events include, tornadoes, the kind of heavy rainstorms that we've had over the last several years. And this year they added power outages as being a natural hazard resulting from these types of events. So periodically the county updates and readopts new action plans and mitigation strategies to address these natural hazards. As the plan identifies activities that can be undertaken by public and private sectors to reduce safety hazards, health hazards, and property damage caused by natural hazards, and as Wooddale periodically experiences the effects of flooding and storm and wind damage, it's prudent that we adopt this plan to remain eligible for FEMA mitigation grant funding. The new plan is 241 pages long, which is why I did not attach copies to the agenda for your review. I did do the Evelyn Wood speed reading through that, and the changes in there, the main change is the fact that they added power outages as actually being a natural hazard. So as I said earlier, DuPage County did adopt, this is a new version from the 2011 version that we had adopted, and DuPage County is requiring that the municipalities adopt this prior to July 12th of this year. So any questions?
Alderman Wesley?
Do we have a policy, do we have one in play now for this? Something like this?
Yes, we do.
So this will replace the one that's in there now, this will be the newer one?
Correct.
So we'll void the other one and this one will be the new one?
This will just take the place of the other. Yes, this is just an updated version of the same document.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Report and recommendation, adoption of the minimum standards contained in the updated DuPage County Stormwater Management Ordinance. Mr. Forrest?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, similar scenario here to the Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan. As you all know, for several years, Wooddale has adopted the DuPage County Stormwater Management Ordinance, and not only adopted that ordinance, but then we also have our own ordinance, which actually contains some requirements that are stricter than the county's ordinance. I can probably compare this, it's a similar scenario to the fact that we have the City of Wooddale local building code amendments, and yet we also adopt the 2012 International Building Code as one of our governing codes. So whichever one of those documents has a stricter requirement, that is what would apply to a particular situation. Again, the new DuPage County Stormwater Management Ordinance is 199 pages long. And again, I did do the Evelyn Wood speed reading review of it. And probably 99.9% of the changes in this document are capital letters, underlining parts. They've added a couple of minor changes. They include reference to the Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan. I did talk with the city engineer concerning the new DuPage County Stormwater Management Ordinance because he's been involved in a more thorough review of that during the municipal engineers meetings that they have out at DuPage County, and they have gone through this document. And in his opinion, probably the main change is that we have to increase the buffer zone width in the floodplain areas. Currently, our standard, I believe, is 75 feet. We need to increase that to 100 feet. So 100 feet from the edge of the creek and/or the boundary of the 100-year floodplain. That's where the Stormwater Management Ordinance comes into play, which governs what sort of structures can be there, what sort of construction, what sort of uses can be contained in the floodplain.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
I have a question. Has the Stormwater looked at this one yet? Stormwater Committee? And does ours oversee DuPage County Stormwater Ordinance?
Well, it's like our local building code. We adopt this. This is our local. We're required to enforce at the minimum the DuPage County Stormwater Management Ordinance. Those are the minimum standards. Yet we are what's known as a full waiver community, which affords Wooddale the luxury of when construction projects come along, we're able to review those in-house. Our city engineer is actually the stormwater engineer or the stormwater administrator. He's able to sign off on the stormwater management permits. In order for us to maintain our full waiver status, we have to either adopt a resolution or an ordinance agreeing that at the minimum we will enforce the DuPage County ordinance, but one better yet, our local code, our local amendments have contained some stricter requirements than the DuPage County was. So we're in very good shape as far as enforcing this. Has the Stormwater Committee reviewed this yet? I would have to ask them. I'm not sure.
May I do a follow-up?
Sure, go ahead.
My follow-up with that question is, since our engineer firm has been involved with attending these meetings out in DuPage County, and we have one of our engineer firms that sits on a committee, I would say it ain't that hard since he's seen ours and the new one today, that he cannot go through that and highlight the changes in that and advise our stormwater committee before it comes back to our council. The reason we put a stormwater committee together is to meet the requirement that is required. And for them not to even see this and have us pass this tonight without comparing ours with them and letting them know what the changes are, because I'm sure they didn't see the changes either. And, you know, we have a guy that's from Baxter Women that sits there on that committee, goes that meetings, and they have the update for this one, and they have our own one. So I would recommend that this gets sent down to the Stormwater Committee for reviews, or is there a deadline that we have to pass this one by? I'm sorry.
Mr. Forrest?
I believe there is a deadline on this, but I don't think it's as tight of a deadline as the hazards mitigation plan. One comment that I would like to make, again, as many of you recall, about a year ago, we adopted what was then the current revised stormwater management ordinance. Between last April and this April, they sent the ordinance back to the codifiers because there were a lot of Scribner's errors, in the document. And again, in going through that, 99.9% of the changes were capitalizing words that were not capitalized before, underlining words that were not underlined before. They moved a couple of code sections around that are basically identical, but they took them from one section, took them in another one, which means they had to renumber the entire document. Those are basically the changes that were made in the document that we adopted in April of 2012 and the one that the county adopted in April of 2013 that they're requiring we adopt. So I have no problem taking it back to stormwater, but again, I just want to stress that any changes in here are extremely minimal.
I'm sorry.
Alderman Wesley?
I believe this was discussed at stormwater meeting before, that this ordinance was going to be changed eventually down the line, and that our engineer firm would get back to them on the changes before it came forward to the city council level. So again, I would ask that this goes back to the stormwater committee to review and highlight the changes, for they are aware of the situation, that the changes have been made compared to ours and ours. Even though ours oversee the Page County, ours is stronger, I still think having that committee in place should have the entitled to review this before the council approval. I don't see what the big change is, and, you know, it's like, if there's not a deadline here, let's bring it up.
Okay.
I
that's
mean, they
fine.
got till, if he could do it by Wednesday, he's got till Wednesday, I believe they got a meeting, so it ain't that hard to go through it. He's got the next week to put it all together, so if it goes there and then come back to us as a council, if you want to pass this at council level, I have no problem if it goes, I have no problem if it gets approval by, reviewed by the city by stormwater,
Right.
and come right to council for approval, which it could. I recommend that we do it that way.
Okay, I'll coordinate that with the city engineer.
So are you making a motion to send it to Stormwater? Is that,
I'll make a motion that we send it to stormwater to their review for next week.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Number 6, report and recommendation, 13-V2, 13-Z1, 5 North 012 Wooddale Road, re-subdivision. Mr. Forrest?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe the attorney for the petitioner is here, and
Before you get, maybe we can save us all some time. I was looking at this, and I happened to have been at the CDC meeting. And so it was denied overwhelmingly. Everybody voted against it. So as a
Correct.
council, I don't feel it's, I mean, first we'd have to have a supermajority. You know, we're not going to hold a hearing here to completely bypass when it was that unanimous. So I'd make a recommendation that we send it back to the CDC, have them look at this again, and maybe if the petitioner wants to change some things up and put a deal together, I think that we need to send it back there. So
Is that your motion?
Yeah, that's my motion.
I'll second the motion.
Questions? Alderman Roy Wesley?
This is for the, so, what are you sending back? I mean, this is for 4 houses, correct?
Correct,
For rezoning.
correct.
I'd like to hear what the attorney has to say on this and see where this is going. I mean, is it coming back to 4 houses again, or?
Well, that's the reason for sending it back there, for them to maybe work out some deal, probably less than 4 houses. Mr. Zubak?
Mr. Chairman, yes, for the record, Marshall Subak, S-U-B-A-C-H, I'm the attorney for the petitioner. We had made a request to continue or refer it back to the CDC based upon the comments we heard from the CDC Commission as well as from the public. We're going to revise the plan, narrow it down to not 4 lots, be less than 4 lots, and see if that will get approval from the CDC. So it's our request that it goes back to the CDC. Unfortunately, I have a conflict for the meeting in July, so we're looking to have this before the CDC on August 19th.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to send it back to the CDC. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 1 no. Alderman Roy Wesley. Report and recommendation, zoning variance hearing 13-V3, 396 Spruce Road, Moringa lot coverage variation. Mr. Forrest?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The issue here are property owners at 398 Spruce Road in Wooddale. Mr. and Mrs. Moringa filed an application requesting approval of a variation from the 35% maximum lot coverage requirement pursuant to Article 6, Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. And the purpose of the proposed variation was to allow the construction of an in-ground swimming pool. In 2008, the petitioners applied for and received a variation to increase the allowable lot coverage from 35% to 36% in order to accommodate the construction of a two-story sunroom addition. As a condition of approval, the homeowners were required to remove an existing 498 square foot patio. And then when they put the sunroom on, that variation brought the total lot coverage to the 36% figure. Staff recommended denial of that variation because the standards for variation were not met. Swimming pools were not typical among the 85 homes within Woodside subdivision. And at the May 20th CDC meeting, the motion was made to recommend to the City Council that the requested variation to increase the maximum lot coverage to 40% was denied. So the motion did pass unanimous at CDC.
Are there any questions on this?
No, I'll make a motion deny.
Is that your motion? You're making a motion to,
I'll make a motion to deny due to the fact is that he's already used up all his lot coverage on that property. Is that what we've done?
I second that.
any questions?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
The CDC was what, 6-0 on that to approve it?
7-0.
7 to approve it?
No, deny.
To deny? Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention. Alderman Sismarski abstained. Motion fails. Items to be considered at future meetings, amendments to Chapter 5, Article 1, Section 5.101 of the Municipal Code. That's regarding karaoke, that'll be June 27th. Foreclosure property maintenance, that'll be June or July. Community park / town center vision plan will be coming to us for a presentation in July. Lakota Group, City Wooddale wayfinding and signage design project, July or August, and approval for staff for minor zoning variations in August. Do I have a request to put anything else on there? Alderman Jacob?
I just make a request that we push up the foreclosure property maintenance as soon as possible, to do that as soon as we can. In June, preferably.
Okay. Any other requests? Alderman Wesley?
Can I just ask one question? This karaoke, didn't we have a debate, didn't we have a discussion on this before?
We had a discussion, but we didn't do anything officially,
We did
correct?
nothing. So are we coming back with the same stuff that was proposed to us, or is a new?
Mr. Forrest?
The Reader's Digest version of what we're going to be bringing forward is to add karaoke to the definition of live music. When you have an establishment that wants to have live music, there's another set of rules that kicks in
Okay.
as far as the type of license that they have.
I'll wait till I see it
So-
then. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Make a motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
I yield my committee to Eugene Wesley.
Call the meeting of Public Work at Public Health and Safety Committee order. Make the minute taker, the same people are present. Items, approval of May 23rd, 2013 minutes. Need a motion?
Second.
Corrections, changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Report on recommendation, electric, SS system for City Hall. Mr. Vesta, you want to take that one? please?
Sure. Last fiscal year, we came to you with some options for electronic access system for City Hall. Based on 3 different options that we presented, we went ahead with installing 20 of the main doors, which are all the public access doors, and then access to each main department and a couple of other spots, including the evidence room, that we thought was the highest priority to get on the electronic access system right away. The type of system we put in right now is expandable. We did that for the mere fact of if there was desire to put it into the rest of the office doors, we would have a system that could handle all the office doors without having to install new door control panels. It would just be to rewire for all the doors. That being said, we're back to you tonight. Through the budget process last year, we put in money to finish the doors, and what this proposal for 42 doors would finish all the remaining doors in the city with an electronic access system. So that's what we're looking to do tonight.
So my question to you, it's a budget item that we put in the budget for this year of 64,000 or whatever, some change.
That's correct.
So that will finish the whole entire city hall and everything
That's correct.
that we talked about.
Yes.
So I'll make a motion,
Second.
okay? Questions, Frank Pizarro?
Chief, I would imagine that these are battery backed up. In other words, if something happens to our electricity, how do we get into that?
They are basically powered over an Ethernet cable, and the main control boxes that are down by the in one of the electrical rooms downstairs, those are connected to the backup generator. So if there is any failure in the power, they will still be allowed to be used if the power goes down.
Mr. Jacob?
Chief, just wanted to make sure, have we had any issues with the ones that we have in place?
Short of me picking the wrong day, I put one in for the wrong night one time. We haven't had any problems with it. It's working fine. We had one solenoid that went bad. They replaced it free of charge, and it's been very accurate and trustworthy.
Okay, thank you.
I think it is costs dropped on key replacements or locks on the doors or lock repairs. So I think it's a good idea for us for security purposes. Eventually, it will be done at the treatment plant once the treatment plant is completed. So I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Denied? Anyone denied? Opposed? Motion carries. The only thing that I would ask that, I didn't say the dollar amount, so I would ask that that be put in the minutes. So will we have to do Mayor, do we have to do another roll call on that or no?
Make an amendment to the.
I make an amendment or motion for $64,500. Does secondary agree?
I agree.
Not to exceed. So. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item consider future meetings, quiet zone on June 27th, squad car replacement July, whenever in July. Anything else? Yep. Mr. Sineski?
Say, take the quiet zone off until the intersection of Wooddale and Irving is finished. We can't do anything till then. Push it back to July or August.
Well, the intersection won't be done. Well, yeah, we can push it back. You don't have
Pending the date of the start of the intersection, do you know?
I don't know when the date is. Jeff?
Well, if we're gonna push back discussion of that, it wouldn't, the construction wouldn't start until next spring sometime.
I mean, there's nothing, okay. I mean, we've discussed it, so there's nothing we can do until we get a different grade.
Mayor, you have a follow-up on that one?
We should find out exactly what Itasca and Bensonville are doing, if we have an update on what they're doing.
Well, that's what I asked for, so.
And basically, we should probably start discussing what would it entail. Even though we're doing Wooddale and Irving Park, we still need to see what our portion's gonna be. So if we have the discussion now, we won't be waiting in the next spring.
Okay.
Alderman Wesley's correct. He did request that, and that's part of our presentation plan for the 27th if we move forward with the presentation.
So, okay, so we'll leave it there until. Alderman Roy Wesley?
Just wish to wish Greg Vesta a happy birthday, so.
Oh, Okay.
Birthday, Chief.
Sylvester,
Happy birthday.
happy birthday. All right, any other questions? Mr. Jacob?
Are we leaving that on the,
Leave that on there.
we are, okay, thank you.
So, any other items added to the agenda? Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, I'd like to call the Public Works Committee to order. Have the minute taker note that same people are here. And I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting on May 23rd, 2013. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there a question?
I think on the, I think Alderman Catalano, were you not here? Because it didn't have your name on there. You were here at that meeting, weren't you? I think there just needs to be a correction. Alderman Catalano, I don't think it showed up on there.
All right, can we make that correction and no taker? Okay.
Thank you.
Who's here?
He was here.
Yeah. Okay, all approve of the minutes?
Yes.
There was a motion made.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, do we have it? Did somebody second it? Was,
I second.
Okay.
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries.
And that passed, motion carried. Okay, Rich, I'm going to turn it over to you for a presentation for Clark Mosquito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First on our agenda for Public Works Committee this evening is a report and summary by Clark Mosquito to share with you some of the contents of the program that the city has contracted with Clark Mosquito for. George Ballas is the individual from Clark that's now our representative from their firm, and he's going to take us through a few slides here and then open it up certainly for some questions should you have any.
Thank you for your time this evening. As the regional manager of the Midwest and also an entomologist with Clark, I oversee the integrated pest management approach in place for the city of Wooddale. The program has several different components. The main focus of the program is the larval control and surveillance component. And you can see here on the screen, these are mosquito larvae. The mosquito larva actually develops in standing water and then has 3 phases in that area and moves over towards an adult mosquito. The main focus of the program is 12 major inspections of over 146 sites, standing water areas, ponds, retention ponds, detention areas. We take water samples from those areas, collect the mosquito larvae if they're found there, and treat those sites accordingly if breeding is found. If breeding is found, applications can be made either by hand larviciding or backpack larviciding. This is a backpack application right here. Again, focusing on the mosquitoes before they become adults within the village limits. In addition to those applications are made. Actually, just last month, you would have seen bicycles riding along the streets. Those are applications made to the storm drains, and you're looking at over 3,000 storm drains, almost up to 4,000 storm drains. In those storm drains contains a lot of water. Mosquitoes, again, need this water for breeding. This is one of the most prolific areas for mosquito breeding and the transmission of West Nile virus, the type of mosquito that transmits West Nile virus, breeds primarily in catch basins and artificial containers. So these are part of the treatment applications, and that occurred actually during the month of May. Adult mosquito control is also performed as part of the program. There is a series of traps which are set on an ongoing basis to collect mosquitoes to determine the density and distribution. This right here is a gravid trap which collects female mosquitoes. These mosquitoes are collected and actually tested for West Nile virus. West Nile virus was very prolific, as you might remember last year, in the DuPage County area with 56 human cases of West Nile virus. If you extrapolate that number out for every case that is a hospitalization or a number like 56, you would multiply that times 150 cases to up to 1,000. So you almost had 5,600 cases of West Nile virus in DuPage County alone. Adult mosquito control is performed as part of the contract. There are 3 citywide treatments which are included in this program, as well as additional treatments which are performed for movies in the park and other festivals throughout the year. So the program as an overall program is a core integrated pest management program which incorporates a lot of different services. The services start up during the month of May, and 2 inspections were performed during the month of May. Catch basin applications start at that time, and the trapping and all of that continues on all the way in through September. If you have any questions,
Any questions? Alderman R. Wesley?
Last week, we had a bill in front of us for, go ahead, Rich, help me out here.
Sure, and George is here to speak to that, but for $9,200 was the bill. That is a 5-period bill. We pay that monthly, and George can speak to that for further clarification.
It should
be said-
It's the same cost each month for 5 months. That's a contract that we signed 6 years ago with them, and in January 10th of this year, I brought that before council again, and that was reauthorized again. So that payment it's effectively a payment plan. So we pay the same amount each month for their service for 5 months.
Okay. Could I go
Alderman
on
Wesley,
here?
go ahead.
Speak to that.
You mentioned about that you checked the water for lava. How often do you check them?
they're checked 12 times during the year. So during the month of May, there were 2 inspections done during that month.
For each pond?
Yes. So what we do is it's retention ponds, detention ponds, all different roadside ditches. There's over 140 sites which are checked on an ongoing basis.
In Wooddale?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Alderman.
And the traps that were shown there, do you take those traps back to your lab and test them, or do they go to the county, or?
Well, there's 2 different types of traps that are utilized. There's New Jersey light traps, which are traps that are collected 3 times per week, collected over an 18-week period. Those are all brought to our laboratory, identified to species, so we can tell what types of mosquitoes are in the area, and also helps us with what is called a brood prediction model, which allows us to determine when adult mosquito control would be utilized. The other traps are actually returned, the gravitraps that you saw there. Those mosquitoes are returned to our laboratory. They are tested for West Nile virus. All the results are then actually sent to an independent laboratory beyond ours, and those are actually tested at a Michigan State University, and if they come back positive, all those results are reported back to the county and to the state health department as well.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Alderman Woods?
Back to Mr. Gillis. The $9,000 payment that we're making monthly, wasn't there another payment that we made too of $2,000? So that was my question last time.
Yeah, and the $2,300 bill that you had a question on, Alderman Woods, was for treatment of a pond at 480 Montrose, so commonly I think referred to as the Hiawatha Pond. But there is an algicide that was added to that pond. It was something that had been started a couple years back, and we continued that trend here this year.
So that's outside of the mosquito abatement?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's a different division of. I hope I mentioned that last time. A different division of their firm.
All right, thank you.
Any other question? Alderman E. Wesley?
I did get a copy of the contract to verify the conversation that we had and that. And I don't know if I could do this or not tonight, but I want to see if I could do it. Mr. Mayor, we did not say we asked to hold that check until we get the information. At the council level, could we release that check as effective tomorrow, knowing that, well, we will do it tonight.
So
But
it
I
has to
thought
go
we
to
have-
council then?
But I thought we have done this, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong here. I thought we did this with Maxwell Woodman bill one time. We hold all the bills until the finance chairman or committee member looked at it, and then we released that check. We didn't come back to council with that check.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I remember a process where, in instances where we would have a council meeting canceled, we would send the list of bills to council members and ask them if they had any problems with any items on the list of bills, and if they did, then we would pull that check until that question was answered. As far as the process last week, I really don't remember. I'm not sure.
But we have released it before, after the council had the questions answered. tonight we had those questions answered.
Well,
So
the-
I don't see why we would hold back their payment then.
The only problem I can think of is I think we amended the approval amount for the list
Right.
of bills. So with that amount, that didn't
You're right.
include the check. So if
You're
we
right.
would have left it, the amount, and then said, let's wait on verification, then we probably would have been able to do that, but we amended the number.
Okay, I forgot we amended the motion. That's
Okay.
fine then. Well, then he's gotta wait till Thursday night then, next Thursday.
Mayor, please.
Basically, that's what I was gonna say.
Not that one.
A lot of times when we pull a bill, we'll pull it with the amendment, providing whether it be legal opinion or whatever, and that's how it would get paid. Right.
Jeff?
Yeah, the one thing, I did have the contract prepared and ready to go in the packet for tomorrow, because I didn't think we were gonna talk contract tonight. I thought it was just gonna be a brief presentation, and then you'll all get a copy of the contract tomorrow in your packet in anticipation for next week's list of bills, so you can review it all, put it back on there, and then issue the check.
Okay. Eugene?
Could I-
Alderman Wesley?
Let's just do a follow-up on this. You already set some traps in our town, am I correct?
That is correct.
And you have done, obviously you did the embankment or the,
We did the larviciding treatment in the catch basins as
is
well,
there a
so-
way that you could send us or send the director an email, what has been done already? Because here's the thing I'm getting. I'm getting already calls from people with, you know, it ain't that warm out yet, but I'm getting called from mosquitoes and they ask me, have we done anything yet? It will help as alderman that, yes, we have done this, and the council will get a copy of that in their email or in their packet saying, we have applied this already and that. And that's all I'm asking for is update. And then the other thing I'm asking is for when you submit your bills, may you update, break it down a little more than contract services. Because when I get contract services, I'm assuming that Joe Smolf from outside gave me a contract and says, I want $2,000 for contract services, and I don't know what you did in that contract service. I know it's part of the contract, no doubt about it. I read the contract, I agree with, but I'd like to know what we've done in that period of time with that contract.
Go ahead, Rich.
You know, just as a follow-up to your comment, you know, I heard you last time. We've had that dialogue. He's agreed to provide me with a report that gives us the detail so maybe I can insert that and give you some better clarity. And, you know, I do appreciate the comments.
Okay.
Rich, I have a question for you. How many years has Clark Mosquito been servicing Wooddale?
Since 2006, they began a dialogue with us, and then their actual service came in calendar year 2007.
Okay. And a question for you. Has anything that you've done for the city changed, or is this pretty much a regular routine for you?
Since 2007, previous to that, we actually worked with the city going back almost 30 years. So the program was changed moving into 2007. So in the last 6 years, it has remained very similar.
So it's remained the same.
Additional sites have been added as different areas have been developed and different waterways have been changed. But from an overall standpoint, the service level where you have different inspections and catch basins, other than just the units have increased, it's remained very similar.
Okay. Any other questions? Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yeah, he's absolutely right. We had them for 30 years, and then we changed 1 year to Vector for mosquitoes because the council says, let's go out for bid. Vector came in with the lowest bid. Vector did a terrible job, so we said, no, we're going back to Clark. There ain't that many contractors out there that does Clark. Unfortunately, it was really nice that Clark stuck to their contract as they did last year. This contract is almost identical from last year. So I appreciate them not increasing like we did, but I'm very happy with Clark, and I'm sure the citizens are happy with him too, so.
Eugene Samarsky. Alderman Samarsky.
I changed my name.
Change your name.
Did you say you guys drop those pellets in every storm drain, or is it every, how many feet, or?
It's every storm drain along the public right of way. So it's all storm drains, catch basins, inlets, and otherwise.
Okay. That one follow-up, have you guys found any West Nile in the area at all, or?
West Nile virus was
in the
actually
past,
found
I
in
don't
Cook
know.
County just last week. But West Nile virus, generally, we start to see positive mosquito samples into June and July, and then human cases into August and September.
Alderman Woods?
Yeah, Rich, I want to go back to the aquatics thing. Do we have an ongoing contract, or is that a one-time expense on that pond?
It's a one-time annual expense.
Mayor?
Rich, is that the ponds that we're developing all the algae? Is that the ones? Or is that something different? Because I know we had to step in on some ponds that were a mess.
This is a pond that the city currently does not own. However, it's a regional pond that causes a public health and safety nuisance. We have been trying to work with the owner of the pond. It's a problematic situation, so we end up treating it and going back and trying to get those monies recouped from the actual owner of the pond. But for public safety, we end up treating the pond.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Eugene Wesley?
I have one follow-up question. In the previous years, the contract stated we had 3 with an option of number, a possible 4. Reading this contract, and foolish me that didn't catch it when it came to us, it does not say that in this contract. So was that option taken out by our staff, or was that an option that we just left off there?
The contract from 2010 to 2012, and then the extension for 2013 through 2015 are the exact same terms. So there's 3 citywide adult mosquito control, and then we do have a price for any additional authorized treatments beyond the 3.
Okay, that was my concern. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Alderman Roy Wesley?
Rich, you mentioned that they treated the ponds only once a year? Well,
We actually do inspect it and treat it throughout the year. It's a one-time cost. So it's a program, but there are up to 13 inspections that are included in that pond program.
Go
ahead.
The product that you're using, does it have to be licensed for?
Yes, for both mosquito control and the aquatic services, you have to be licensed through the Illinois Department of Agriculture. And in addition to that, in 2011, a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit is necessary for both mosquito control and aquatic services, and both Clark Environmental Mosquito Management, who provides your mosquito control, and Clark Aquatic Services, who provides the aquatic services, both of those we have permits for, and that includes actually, additionally, because we do gypsy moth for the city as well, a permit is necessary for that as well, under a different license under the Department of Agriculture as well.
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
With the Department of Ag now, there's laws now that you have to say how much chemical you're using and stuff like that. Do we get a list of that, of how much practice for the city's records?
For the city's records, actually, because we are the permittee holder for all of the municipalities, our permit is for all the work that we provide. So we don't break down chemical use by municipality or usage, because the permit is actually through the IEPA, and the permit is for all chemical use under that single permit. So we do not break out chemical use village by village or city by city. So that is not a requirement of the permit. The permit requirement is that all chemical use that is utilized by our company under that permit is reported together. So anything that we do for your pond is reported with all of the other 1,100 ponds that we would treat. For mosquito control, any mosquito control that we provide here is reported under all the contracts that we have with over 175 municipalities here in Chicagoland. Your monthly report will give you a breakdown, and then the annual report, which we will be providing as well, gives a breakdown of what services have been provided. But for the actual reporting to those agencies, that is done under a large permit format.
Go ahead.
So the Department of Ag allows that to do it that way? I mean,
Yeah,
because that's a new thing that I'm talking about.
Yeah, the Department of Agriculture doesn't oversee that. It's actually the IEPA and the IDNR are the agencies that oversee that permitting process. And so they have allowed us, and because we work with so many municipalities on
Okay.
so many things, our reporting process is different than what you might have for an individual home project or things of that sort. So we report on a massive basis rather than an individual basis.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Board.
Okay, we have a stormwater commission report, and I'll be doing the report. Basically, we had three motions that were made during the Stormwater Management Commission. The motion to amend the current resident flood survey form to include a clear title and instruction for submitting a complete form. That form is now going to be updated with the words "important survey form." And we're feeling that the word "important" should hopefully get some attention where people start filling these forms out and sending them back to the city. Also, a motion requesting that a representative from the city staff, either a director or a knowledgeable member of the city staff, be in attendance at all Stormwater Management Commission meetings. And Rich is going to be at the next Stormwater Commission. You have something you'd like to say, Rich?
Just that I've tried to do some outreach before the conversation, had a number of discussions with some of the commission members, certainly read the meeting minutes and gotten, I think, a pretty good handle on what some of their concerns are. That coupled with the NOAA system and moving on that, I think we've got a real opportunity to make some progress. So I look forward to the meeting next Wednesday.
Right, and also there's been some updating going on with Channel 6. It's not updated yet, but there's been a lot of discussion as to putting in new slides for the Stormwater Commission. Also, a motion to name Steve Kirch as a representative of the Stormwater Management Commission to the Salt Creek Watershed Network. Also, Rich, we've had a lot of dialogue about the city itself becoming a member of the Salt Creek Watershed Network. Have we made any progress on that?
There are two different networks to belong to. I think next Wednesday I want to make sure that I understand which one that the group favors. But then, of course, we would consider making sure that we're members of the one that I think the group as a whole would recommend.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much on that. Okay, next, report and recommendation for salt storage consideration. Rich, I'm going to let you take that.
Mr. Chairman, as you might recall, back in February, we had some dialogue as a group about salt storage issues. And at that time, we had a relatively warm winter on our hands. And we were predicting that the city would end up having an abundance of salt that we were going to have a need to store. So at that time, we talked about, I believe, 6 primary options. And just to run through those quickly, we have acquired in the last year or so a commercial street property at 144, and there was an opportunity to look at that property for storage. There were some limitations on that, but we certainly had that as one potential opportunity. A couple other options included expand the existing storage area that is at the 720 facility today and reconstruct that facility or add what I'll call a permanent structure to that. We also talked about adding some sort of temporary storage at that facility at 720. Fourth option was to work with Morton Salt and just have them hold that salt till next year for us at their facility. But with that came a pretty considerable cost. Option 5 was certainly to work with any other municipalities or government bodies to look for an intergovernmental agreement to potentially store some of the salt. As we learned during that conversation, that's a very difficult challenge because a lot of other people, if we need to store some, they probably already are at their storage limits. And then the 6th option, and the option that we tried to look at more broadly, was looking at available properties in the city and in adjacent, government entities to try to be able to build a facility that would be more permanent in nature, i.e. a salt dome someplace. So there was some dialogue about, some available properties that we potentially could have built on. I guess in conclusion of this, last year the winter came much later than we expected, and as such, we used up the salts that we were obligated to take under contract with Morton Salt. And so it has resulted in a lesser need for at least having to address the storage considerations for this year. So what we have opted to do to resolve the matter for now is we have reduced the number of salt tonnage to 800 tons. Our normal order was 1,000 tons. And you're obligated to take 80% of that 800 tons or up to 120% of that 800 tons. So basically that gives us a target of a minimum of 640 tons that we'll be obligated to take. And as such, if we have the similar winter that we had last year, we believe that making that adjustment will accommodate the potential for needing to store some salt. In addition to that, if we have a reason to have to store some more salt, we would create temporary storage outside of our existing facility and create a ground storage with a cover on it if we need to. So that is our plan going into next winter. I know on a beautiful day like today, maybe we're not all thinking about snow, but Alderman Eugene Wesley and I had a lot of discussion about this, and just want to make sure that everyone understands that we've resolved the issue, bring it to closure, and open it up for any discussion on a more permanent facility if you think that's appropriate.
So, Rich, which option are you recommending?
It's not a recommendation of options. It's just reminding you that those were the options that we explored. The option that we are concluding with is that we don't have to take any action, or we didn't have to take any action this year. But because we didn't have to take any action, doesn't mean we shouldn't have maybe some discussion about it and a longer-term solution. And I think that's why we're here tonight, to talk about it.
Okay. Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Okay. I started this project last year, and my concern was the salt. We did have some conversation out there about the storage. We did agree to move some of the stuff out of one storage bin if we have to. Outside, our dirt and our sand, we looked at it, me, Mr. Gillis, and George went out there, and we said, okay, if we move this here and we add to this storage, that will add about, Rich, help me out, 250 tons? Yeah. So we still have room for 250 tons, provided we just move the dirt and the sand out of that one bay, and we'll still be undercover. And I think we, at that options with the discussion that we had, is that we would try that option for next year, knowing that there's, unfortunately, Itasca had to sign a contract sooner than expected with their salt. We are in negotiations or forming our committee, or those committees have not met with Itasca yet. And actually, Itasca paid more money for salt than what we paid. So I think what we should do is go to the option that we talked about, moving some of that dirt out if we have to, add another 250 tons in that one bin in that storage.
So is this option number 2 that you're talking about, Eugene?
Yes, that will be another option. Well, no, because it ain't going to cost us anything right off the bat. It's just moving some dirt out of the one bay. So that option is not on here.
So, okay, that's what I was going to ask.
And that option is not on here, but that was what we were discussing, so I think that will be the smartest move. And then once the committee meets with Itasca, that may be the first topic we talk about, of joining salt purchase together and sharing the salt shed that they have. Believe it or not, the salt shed for location, and I have drove through this whole entire city, I don't see a location for a salt shed unless someone wants to put it where we had it, behind the firehouse or on the county, behind the county building, and that was up in arms. So my suggestion, new standards with the EPA is coming down the pipe, so that's got to be addressed too. So I would say go with the option that, not here, but option that I just explained, move the dirt and the sand out of that one bay, give us 250 more tons to store for at least this year, and then revisit this or talk to Itasca about down the line.
Yeah, so we're pretty much looking at option 5. Seek assistance from other municipalities?
If we get down to that.
Yeah. Okay.
But until then, I suggest that we moved. And the reason why I just came back, as alderman, I don't have a say-so to tell them what to do. It's a council decision to make. My suggestion was, and working with this, is bring back suggestions, and it's a whole council decision to make the decision. I don't make the decision.
Right.
And that's why I wanted to bring this back onto the dais today, to line it all up, which direction we all want to go. Because you may have a different direction, this guy might have another direction. I'm just laying it out. I don't make that decision, it's a council decision, which direction you want to go. That's the direction that I would recommend go, but you might have a different selection. So
Well, I think something has to be done because you and I, all winter long, were stressing out over what we're going to be doing with all this salt, but fortunately, we did have enough snow. But we don't want to get caught like we did last year.
But we also lower our salt purchase for this year.
Right, which was a good one.
May I do one follow-up on that? Mr. Gillis, if we go ahead and we burn up through that salt, there is still that option that we still could buy off of Morton at the same price or an increase on the price.
Go ahead, Rich.
We could buy 120% of the 800 tons we're obligated to order, right? So you can.
But we went down on our salt orders.
Yeah, we reduced it by 200 tons.
So
our
if we
base.
so if we have a bad winter,
we could buy more.
we could buy more
Yeah.
through Morton at the salt rate that we have, or it will be a low increase.
Go ahead,
You-
Rich.
You can buy 120% of 800 tons.
Okay. Okay, got it.
Like 960, someplace around in there.
Alderman-
960,
oh,
and
I'm
then
sorry.
you could after the 960, you'd have to
Pay more.
negotiate.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Szymanski.
There's also, I mean, the other option is constructing a new one. It's off in the future. But those pictures that I showed you before.
Right.
Elk Grove having that one. You could also have staff talk to the historical area, build them a shed.
Did you show the pictures to staff by any chance, Mike? Okay,
I sent them to staff.
all right. Any other questions? Alderman Jacob?
Just for Mr. Gallus, I know you said we could do 120%, but say we have a real bad storm, we could get more. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just gonna cost us more and we're never gonna have a problem.
Correct.
Okay.
May just go up to $105, I'm saying.
Okay. Mayor, please.
Yeah, just for Alderman Jacob, a few years ago, when we had all that snow and all the municipalities ran out, I think they almost doubled the price on the salt to all the municipalities back
We
then.
went up to 105.
Yeah. So, Rich, you don't really need us to make any decision tonight, do you?
This to you at the request of, council members to just remind you that, we made it work last year. We've made some adjustments to try to make it work this year again. And as Alderman Eugene Wesley has pointed out, we're prepared to make that adjustment should it be necessary this winter.
Okay. Any other questions? Alderman Eugene Wesley?
So I would recommend that this proposal goes in your file drawer right now, for we don't have to retype this back out again if we run in a situation. So long the council's in favor of doing what we thought we decided.
Right. I mean, we obviously need to do something
Right,
so
but
we don't get caught.
We'll be ready, again, if something occurs that we don't have to wait, we could be at.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Okay, moving on. Thank you, Rich. Okay, report and recommendation, proposal from Baxter and Woodman for the pedestrian improvement project in the not-to-exceed amount of $65,000, design services. That is my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, questions? Alderman Eugene Wesley?
First, my memory is, if I'm mistaken, this was part of a grant, am I correct?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir. This is part of a surface transportation program grant from the DuPage County Mayors and Managers. It's done under their Transportation Control Measure, the TCM program that helps fund pedestrian and bicycle path improvements.
So, hey.
Go ahead.
So this improvements, if I ain't mistaken, improvement will be made 7 locations along Wooddale Road and 1 location along Addison Road. So the improvements, if I ain't mistaken, are they AD accessible or are they lights or, I mean,
Let me maybe explain the project a little bit. The improvements are at 7 different locations on Wooddale Road. I can give you the list of them here.
I got them right here.
Okay, and one on Addison Road, and what they are is going in and replacing the sidewalk ramps as they come down to the street to be ADA compliant, any curb work that needs to be done as well. Installing crossing signs that are LED lit, and they'll have a pedestrian push button on them, so when someone comes up to cross in the crosswalk, they're gonna push a button, the signs will be lit up with LEDs around the side of the light, and they're solar powered too, so they don't draw from the power supply. They'll actually have their own power with solar power. So there's about 50 of those type of signs in the grant, as well as decorative crosswalks in a number of locations, typically 1 to 2 per intersection, although at Wooddale and School there were 4 decorative crosswalks, and those were intended to be a stamped asphalt crosswalk there to heighten the visibility of the pedestrians. This project was started off as sort of a streetscape project that the city couldn't find funding for at the time, and the program through DuPage County allows for pedestrian safety improvements. The project has a lot of safety benefits to it, and so we applied for that project under the pedestrian safety component of the Surface Transportation Program, and the county approved